question. Let's start with an example. Let's say I want to build a house, and for some reason I want to go with an approach of agile. Let's say Scrum or Kanban, and I want to build the whole house as a project using the agile methodology and Scrum and Kanban as one of the approach. Now what I would do is, I being the product owner, what I can do is I can just start forming the user stories, what all things needs to be done as part of this project, and start creating all the stories in such a way that whatever needs to be done as part of this project, I would keep on filling up in the product backlog, and as and when the time comes, I would start working on them with my contractors and vendors. So I would have stories related to foundation. I would have stories related to building a structural frame of the house first, and then going with the other amenities. I would have to have stories of plumbing, electricals, painting, furniture, and much more than that. The idea here is whatever I can think of or whatever should go in building this project, it should be there in a product backlog. Now, if you can imagine, my product backlog would look like a flat list without any hierarchies or any kind of grouping. It would certainly have many dependencies within the backlog. It would have many valuable items which needs to be done before than the others. Like the structure needs to be there before I can even start putting up walls. Now, a better way to do the same project in Agile would be using user story mapping. Now, what happens under user story mapping is, I would still use the Agile methodology. I would still use, let's say, Scrum or Kanban. But now, what I will do is, I'll start and create a bigger picture in such a way that I would have functional groupings of all the requirements that I want to have in my project. So let's say there would be groupings of foundation related group. There would be something related to building a structure, something related to painting, something related to um, laying up the walls of the rooms and the building. I would have related to painting. I would have something related to furniture, so on and so forth. But now this grouping would then be sequenced in such a way that whatever should be prioritized first, it should be at the top, and then the next one, and then the next one. Now, how this is different than the flat list of product backlog is, with this, I would still be having all my user stories, but they would now be associated or tagged with a certain functional group. The benefit of this is, this user story map would give me and the contractors and the vendors and my family members as well a certain big picture, which helps them visualize how the project would actually uh, come alive and how it would be done one step at a time. Now, let's say a contractor or a vendor is unavailable. For example, I can try and again go back to this big picture and see which group is independent of the other one, and then can be progressed while the other group is still taking its time because of whatever reason. This would also help me with prioritization. So let's say tomorrow I come up with another user story that should be related to one of the functional groups. I would know where it fits in the whole map, and then I can place it. To come back to the definition of user story mapping, like I shared, it's basically outlining a new product or a new feature in an existing product in such a way that all the user stories are arranged in functional groups, which helps to facilitate the prioritization, and uh, the product discovery is much easier and can be executed in a much comprehensive way. The whole uh, the whole reason of using a user story mapping instead of a flat list, which is a product backlog, the reason to you go with user story mapping is, uh, it helps to build a better understanding of the whole project or an application. It would help the stakeholders, the team, and basically everyone on the project to build a better understanding of the whole project, which essentially leads to a shared understanding, and it also in turn helps to identify the gaps within each functional group or dependent functional groups. Another reason why we should use user story mapping is, uh, so this particular map, it helps to bring the focus of everyone at a single point in the whole journey, and wherever we are in the journey, anyone can point and say, okay, here we are, and this is the next release, or this is the next phase or section where we want to go. These are the set of user stories which now should be ready, and we need to start identifying the dependencies, any issues, impact, challenges, risk, all that risk management needs to come into picture, and so on and so forth. This would also, like I said, help with the prioritization. So instead of having a flat list of product backlog, we would have a better structured frame of where a user story needs to be placed in the whole journey of the development, and it's it gives a better visualization of the whole project as a whole. So that's the response.
Hi all, good evening. This week's question is, what is user story mapping and what is its significance? For example, in Google Map, if you enter source and destination, you will be able to visualize the route map of your journey from source to destination, and along with which it will give more information like where the traffic is and what is the shortest route you can pick for reaching your destination very quickly, and what is the estimated time you will be taking for your reaching that destination. So all this information will be shared in Google Map. For example, if you're starting your journey, say you're boarding a cab, and maybe the source and destination remains the same, but you'll not be able to visualize where the traffic is and what is the shortest route that particular driver is taking, and you'll not get any information about other details about traffic or what is the estimated time and etc. So similarly, in user story mapping, it will help us to visualize the customer journey from start to end with respect to the product. And why or what is the purpose of this user story mapping is, it will ensure that team is aligned, and it will be easy for us to find what the problem, what the customer problem is, and what is the solution we are going to provide for that particular problem. Suppose you're starting a project and you wanted to create user story mapping. So how we are going to do is, and who all should be involved for this user story mapping. So we will be discussing about that in depth. So who can be in user story mapping is, we know product owner is very much important, and subject matter experts, developers, testers, and scrum masters, and UX designer. So all these people can be part of user story mapping. And when we are trying to map, we need to understand who our users are and identify their problems and map the user stories. Once we have mapped the user activities, so we need to map the user stories under the particular user activities and rank the stories like based on the priority, which is most important and which is having the least importance. So we have to rank and identify what is the roadblocks, and then we have to start planning our sprints. After this brainstorming session is completed of creating user story mapping, so we need to understand that there is a difference between user story mapping and also product backlog. It is not the same. So what is the benefit of user story mapping is, it is, if we are working in distributed teams, then user story mapping will be a better approach, so that we are having a shared understanding with the team and we are all aligned as a team, and we will be able to focus on the desired customer outcome, what is that value we are going to deliver to the customer. With this user story mapping, other benefits include like we'll be having a better planning, and there will be like realistic estimation also, because we might have identified the dependencies while mapping our user stories, and we can have that complex stories split into the simpler ones, and there will be a better coordination with the user story mapping because we know the complete journey of customer from beginning to end.
Hi friends, so for this week question, what is user story mapping and what is the significance of this user story mapping? User story mapping, it's nothing but a simple technique, I could say, used in product discovery to outline the product which we are going to create a new product, to outline the new product, or for an existing product that is already available in the market or that is already in development or some other phases. So for this only we will have this user story mapping. So user story mapping is arranged in functional groups. This will help us to give us some big picture of the product and also providing the details of the complete or whole application, where we are, what we have to do, what is the purpose of this, what is the intention of this. So coming to the point of main purpose of story mapping is to facilitate product discovery and prioritization of development work. So for an instance, we may be having n number of items in our work. This user story mapping especially help us to give which item needs to go first, that prioritization. And when we are grooming, we will discover so many things. When we are progressing, we will discover so many product features and applications. So for that, we have to map the user story and brainstorm will help us to map this user story things. Okay, so ideally main purpose is to facilitate the product discovery and prioritization of the development work. So by mapping out this kind of user stories, product team or a development team tells the story, what is the purpose of this journey, why we are doing it, and they will help us to break the user story in short task. Okay, so we are breaking it and we are having the big picture, by breaking the task into small chunks. So this is how we are using this user stories. And and also this helps the team to design and build the functionality that is focused on the desired customer outcomes. Okay, so what is a customer requirement? Customer satisfaction is an important one in Agile, so it literally focus on those things. So how we can use this user story, how we can predict the user stories. So first we want to have the mindset or the clarity of the project goals, discover the project goals, map the journey. We have to map the journey, prioritize user stories. Okay, we have to prioritize the user stories, map the journey and prioritize the user stories, come up the solution, come along with the solution, slice out the release structure. So first we have to discover it, what is our project goals, and map the journey, where we are going, what is our goal, what is a pathway, what is a roadmap. That one we have to do that. Prioritize the user stories. For that prioritization, come up with the solutions, how we can make it, how we can derive it, that kind of solutions we have to come, and slice out the release structures, how we can release it, what is a minimum viable product, that kind of release structures we can plan. So based on that, we are mapping the user stories. So to identify this, okay, so this is a structure and this is a thing. In other words, in other ways as well, we can do frame the problem. What is the need? What is the desire? What is the need at this moment? Need of the hour. Frame the problem. Understand the product users who want it. For an instance, in this hybrid environment before pandemic, everything was like we have to go there and we have to get some item, but now the need is like home delivery. So many products are home delivery. So understand the products users, many are now looking for that. So understand the customers, understand the users, map user activities. So map the activities, what they want, how we can achieve it, and map user stories under activities. There are so many user stories out there, we can map related to this. Flow and prioritize the items, which one want to go first, which one want to go next, that kind of thing. See, for an instance, a customer is ordering some meat, some vegetables and some groceries. So among this, at this moment you can deliver only one thing, so which one you will prioritize, either meat or vegetables only, because groceries won't become stale as soon as quickly. So we will prioritize. So that is what the flow and prioritize. Okay, so flow and prioritize is the key. And then identify gaps and dependencies, technical requirements. So what are all the dependencies to deliver this all these items together, so that kind of things. And plan sprints and releases. So this is how we can map user stories, and these are all the significance and important thing where when we are doing this kind of user story mapping and techniques, we have to consider those things. Thank you.